Hello and welcome to Fun to Learn. Today I'll be reading Biology Class 11's Chapter 1st, The Living World. You can adjust the playback speed according to your understanding. Let's get going. This chapter has 4 subtopics. First, what is living? Second, diversity in the living world. Third, taxonomic categories. Fourth, taxonomical aids. How wonderful is the living world? The wide range of the living type is amazing. The extraordinary habitats in which we find living organisms, be it cold mountains, deciduous forest, ocean, freshwater lakes, deserts, or hot springs, leaves us speechless. The beauty of galloping horse, of the migratory birds, the valley of flowers, or the attacking shark evokes awe and a deep sense of wonder. The ecological conflict and cooperation among members of a population and among the populations of a community, or even the molecular traffic inside the cell, makes us deeply reflect on what indeed is living. This question has two implicit answers within it. The first is the technical one and seeks answer to what living is as opposed to the non-living, and the second is the philosophical one and seeks answer to what the purpose of life is. As scientists, we shall not attempting answering the question second. We will try to reflect on what is living. 1.1 What is living? When we try to define living, we conventionally look at the distinctive characteristics exhibited by living organism. Growth, reproduction, ability to sense the external environment and mount a suitable response come to our mind immediately as unique features of living organisms. One can add a few more features like metabolism, ability to self-replicate, self-organize, interact, and emergence to this list. Let us try to understand each of this. All living organisms grow. Increase in mass and increase in number of an individuals are twin characteristics of growth. A multicellular organism grows by cell division. In plant, this growth by cell division occurs continuously throughout their lifespan. In animals, the growth is seen only up to a certain age. However, cell division occurs in a certain tissue to replace lost cells. Unicellular organisms grow by cell division. One can easily observe this in vitro cultures by simply mounting the number of cells under the microscope. In majority of higher animals and plant, growth and reproduction are mutually exclusive events. One must remember that increase in body mass is considered as growth. Non-living objects also grow if we take increase in body mass as the criteria for growth. Mountains, boulders, and sand mounds do grow. However, this kind of growth exhibited by non-living objects is the accumulation of material on the surface. In living organism, growth is from inside. Growth, therefore, cannot be taken as the defining property of living organisms. Conditions under which it can be observed in all living organisms have to be explained, and then we understand that it is the characteristic of the living system. Dead organism does not grow. Reproduction likewise is a characteristic of living organisms. In multicellular organisms, reproduction refers to the production of progeny possessing features more or less similar to those of the parents. Invariably and implicitly, we refer to sexual reproduction. Organisms reproduce by asexual means also. Fungi multiply and spread easily due to the millions of asexual spores they produce. In lower organisms like yeast and hydra, we observe budding. In planaria, flatworms, we observe true regeneration, that is, a fragmented organism regenerates the lost parts of its body and becomes a new organism. The fungi, the filamentous algae, and the protonema of mosses all easily multiply by fragmentation. When it comes to unicellular organisms like bacteria, unicellular algae, or amoeba, reproduction is synonymous with growth. That is, increase in the cell. We have already defined growth as equivalent to increase in the cell number or mass. Hence, we notice that in single cell organism, we are not very clear about the usage of these two terms, growth and reproduction. Further, there are many organisms which do not reproduce. Mules, sterile worker bee, fertile human couples, etc. Hence, reproduction also cannot be all-inclusive defining characteristic of living organism. Of course, no non-living object is capable of reproducing or replicating by itself. Another characteristic of living is metabolism. All living organisms are made up of chemicals. These chemicals, small or big, belonging to various classes, sizes, functions, etc., are constantly being made and changed into some other biomolecule. There are thousands of metabolism reactions occurring simultaneously inside all living organisms, be they unicellular or multicellular. All plants, animals, fungi, and microbes exhibit metabolism. The sum total of all the chemical reactions occurring in our body is metabolism. No non living objects exhibit metabolism. Metabolic reactions can be demonstrated outside the body in free system. An isolated metabolic reactions outside the body of an organism performed in a test tube is neither living nor non-living. Hence, while metabolism is a defining feature of all the living organism, without exception, isolated metabolic reaction in vitro are not living things but surely living reactions. Hence, cellular organization of the body is defining feature of living forms. Perhaps the most obvious and technically complicated feature of all the living organism is the ability to sense the surroundings and environment and response to these environmental stimuli, which could be physical, chemical, or biological. We sense our environment through our sense organs. Plants respond to external factors like light, water, temperature, and other organisms, etc. All organisms from the prokaryotes to the most complex eukaryotes can sense and respond to external cues. Photoperiod effect reproduction in seasonal breeders, both plants and animals. All organisms handle chemical entering their body. All organisms therefore are aware of their surrounding. Human beings are the only who are aware of himself, that is, has self-consciousness. Consciousness therefore becomes the defining property of living organisms. When it comes to human beings, it is also the most difficult to define the living state. We observe patients laying in coma in the hospital virtually supported by machines which replaces hearts and lungs. Patient is otherwise brain dead. The patient has no self-consciousness. Are such patients who never come back to normal life, living or non-living? In higher classes, you will come to know that all living phenomena are due to the underlying interactions. Properties of tissues are not present in the constituent cells but arises as the result of interaction among the constituent cells. Similarly, properties of cellular organelles are not present in the molecular constituents of the organelle but arises as the result of interactions among the molecular component comprising the organelle. These interactions result in an emergent property at the higher level of organization. This phenomena is true in the hierarchy of organizational complexity at all levels. Therefore, we can say that the living organisms are self-replicating, evolving, and self-regulating interactive systems capable of responding to external stimuli. Biology is the story of life on Earth. Biology is the story of evolution of living organism on Earth. All living organisms, present, past, or future, are linked to one another by sharing the common genetic material but at varying degrees. 1.2 Diversity in the living world. If you look around, you will see a large variety of living organisms, be it potted plants, insects, birds, or pests, or other animals and plants. There are also several organisms that you cannot see with your naked eyes, but they are all around you. If you were to increase the area that you make an observation in, the range and the variety of organisms that you see would increase. Obviously, if you were to visit a dense forest, you would probably see a much more number and kinds of living organisms in it. Each different kind of plant, animal, or organism that you see represents a species. The number of species that are known and described range between 1.7 to 1.8 million. This refers to biodiversity or the number and type of organisms present on Earth. We should remember here that as we explore new areas, even old ones, new organisms are continuously being identified. As stated earlier, there are millions of plants and animals in the world. We know the plants and animals in our own area by their local names. These local names would vary from place to place, even within a country. Probably you would recognize the confusion that would be created if we do not find any ways and means to talk to each other to refer to organisms we are talking about. Hence, there is a need to standardize the naming of living organisms, such that a particular organism is known by the same name all over the world. This process is called nomenclature. Obviously, nomenclature or naming is only possible when the organism is described correctly and we know to what organism the name is attached to. This is identification. In order to facilitate the study, number of scientists have established procedures to assign a scientific name to each known organism. This is acceptable to biologists all over the world. For plants, scientific names are based on agreed principles and criteria which are provided in the International Code of Botanical Nomenclature ICBN. You may ask, how are animals named? Animal taxonomists have evolved International Code of Zoological Nomenclature ICZN. The scientific names ensure that each organism has only one name. Description of any organism should enable the people in any part of the world to arrive to the same name. They also ensure that the name has been not given to any other known organism. Biologists follow universally accepted principles to provide scientific names to known organisms. Each name has two components, the generic name and the specific epithet. The system of providing the name with two components is called binomial nomenclature. The naming system is given by Carolus Linnaeus is being practiced by the biologists all over the world. The naming system using a two-word format was found convenient. Let us take the example of mango to understand the way of scientific names better. The scientific name of mango is written as Mangifera indica. Let us see how it is a binomial name. In this name, Mangifera represents the genus, while indica it is a particular species or a specific epithet. Other universal rules for the nomenclature are as follows. First, biological names are generally in Latin and written in italics. They are Latinized or derived from Latin irrespective of their origin. Second, first word in the biological name represents the genus, while the second component denotes the specific epithet. Third, Words in the biological name, when handwritten, are separately underlined or printed in italics to indicate their Latin origin. Fourth, the first word denoting the genus starts with the capital letter while the specific epithet starts with the small letter. It can be illustrated with an example of Mangifera indica. Name of the author appears after the specific epithet that is in the end of the biological name and is written in an abbreviated form, for example, Mangifera indica Linnaeus. It indicates that the species was first by Linnaeus. Since it is nearly impossible to study all the organism, it is necessary to devise some means to make it possible. This process is classification. Classification is the process by which anything is grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable characters. For example, we can easily recognize groups such as plants and animals or dogs, cats, or insects. The moment we use these terms, we associate certain characters with the organism in that group. What image do you see when you think of a dog? Obviously, each one of us will see dogs walking about. Similarly, suppose we were mammals, you would of course think of animals with external ears, body hair. Likewise, in plants, if we talk of wheat, the picture of each of our minds will be of wheat plants, not of rice or any other plant. Hence, all these dogs, cats, mammals, wheat, rice, plants, animals, etc. are convenient categories we use to study organism. The scientific terms of these categories are taxa. Here, you must recognize that taxa can indicate categories at various different levels. Plants also form a taxa. Wheat also a taxa. Similarly, animals, mammals, dogs, all taxa. But you know that dog is a mammal and mammals are animals. Therefore, animals, mammals, and dogs represent taxa at different levels. Hence, based on the characteristics, all living organisms can be classified into different taxa. The process of classification is taxonomy. External and internal structure, along with the structure of cell, development process, and the ecological information of an organism is essential to form the basis of modern taxonomic studies. Hence, characterization, identification, classification, and nomenclature are the processes that are the basis of taxonomy. Taxonomy is not something new. Human beings have always been interested in knowing more and more about the various kinds of organisms, particularly with reference to their own use. In early days, human beings needed to find source for their basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter. Hence, the earliest classifications were based on the uses of various organisms. Human beings were since long not only interested in knowing more about different kinds of organisms and their diversity but also relationship amongst them. This branch of study that referred to as systematics. The word systematics derived from the Latin word systema, which means systematic arrangement of organisms. Linnaeus used Systema Nature as the title of his publication. The scope of systematics was later enlarged to include identification, nomenclature, and classification. Systematics takes an account of evolutionary relationship between organisms. 1.3 Taxonomic categories. Classification is not a single step process but involves hierarchy of steps in which each of the steps represent a rank or category. Since the category is a part of overall taxonomic arrangement, it is called taxonomic category and all the categories together constitute the taxonomic hierarchy. Each category referred to as a unit of classification in fact represents a rank and is commonly termed as taxon, plural taxa. Taxonomic categories and hierarchy can be illustrated by an example. Insects represents a group of organisms sharing common features like 3 pairs of joint legs. It means insects are recognizable concrete objects which can be classified and thus were given a rank or category. Can you name other such groups of organisms? Remember, groups represent category. Category further denotes rank. Each rank or taxons in fact represents a unit of classification. This taxonomic groups categories are distinct biological entities and not merely morphological aggregates. Taxonomical studies of all known organisms have led to the development of common categories such as kingdom, phylum or division for plants, class, order, family, genus and species. All organisms including those in the plants and animal kingdom have species as their lowest category. Now, the question you may ask is how to place organism in various categories. The basic requirement is the knowledge of characters of individual or group of organisms. This helps in identifying similar and dissimilarities among individuals of same kind of organisms as well as the other kind of organisms. 1.3.1 Species. Taxonomic studies considered a group of individual organisms with fundamental similarities as species. One must be able to distinguish one species from the other closely related species based on the distinct morphological difference. Let us consider Mangifera indica, Solanum tuberosum potato, and Panthera leo lion. All these three names, indica, tuberosum and leo, represents the specific epithet, while the first name Mangifera, Solanum and Panthera are the genus and represent another higher level of taxon or category. Each genus may have one or more than one specific epithet representing different organism but having morphological similarities. For example, Panthera has another specific epithet called tigris, and Solanum includes species like Nigrum and Melongena. Human beings belonging to the species Sapiens, which is grouped in the genus Homo. The specific name thus for human being is written as Homo sapiens. 1.3.2 Genus. Genus comprises a group of related species which have more characters in common in comparison to the species of other genera. We can say that genera are aggregates of closely related species. For example, potato and brinjal are two different species but both belong to the genus Solanum. Lion, Panthera leo, leopard, P. pardus, and tiger, P. tigris, with several common features, are all species of the same genus Panthera. This genus differs from the another genus, Felis, which includes cats. 1.3.3 Family. The next category, family, has a group of related genera with still less number of similarities as compared to genus and species. Families are characterized by the basis of two vegetative and reproductive features of plant species. Among plants, for example, three different genera, Solanum, Petunia, and Datura, are placed in the group Solanaceae. Among animals, for example, genus Panthera, comprising lion, tiger, leopard, are put along with genus Felis, cats, in the family Felidae. Similarly, if you observe the features of cat and a dog, you would find some similarities and some differences as well. They are separated into two different families, Felidae and Canidae respectively. 1.3.4 Order. You have seen earlier that categories like species, genus and families are based on the number of similar characteristics. Generally, order and other higher taxonomic categories are identified based on the aggregates of characters. Order, being a higher category, is an assemblage of family which exhibit a few similarities. The similar characters are less in number as compared to different genera, including a family. Plant families like Convolvulaceae, Solanaceae are included in the order Polynomials, mainly based on the floral characters. The animal order Carnivora includes families like Felidae and Canidae. 1.3.5 class. This category includes related order. For example, order Primata comprising monkey, gorilla and gibbon are placed in class Mammalia along with order Carnivora that includes animals like tiger, cat and dog. Class Mammalia has other orders too. 1.3.6 Phylum. Classes comprising animals like fishes, amphibian, reptiles, birds, along with mammals constitute the next higher category called phylum. All these based on the common features like presence of notochord and dorsal hollow neural system are included in the phylum Chordata. In case of plants, classes of few similar characters are arranged in the higher category called division. 1.3.7 Kingdom. All animals belonging to the various phyla are arranged to the highest category called Kingdom Animalia in the classification system of animals. Kingdom Plantae, on the other hand, is the distinct and comprises all plants of the various division. Henceforth, we will refer to these two as animal and plant kingdoms. The taxonomic categories of species to kingdom have been shown in ascending order starting from species in figure 1.1. These are broad categories. However, taxonomists have also developed subcategories in the hierarchy to facilitate more sound and scientific placement of various taxa. Look at the hierarchy in figure 1.1. Can you recall the basis of arrangement? Say, for example, as we go higher from species to kingdom, the number of common characteristics go on decreasing. Lower the taxa, more are the characteristics that the members within the taxon share. Higher the taxa, greater is the difficulty of determining the relationship to other taxa at the same level. Hence, the problem of classification becomes more complex. Table 1.1 indicates the taxonomic categories to which some common organism like housefly, man, mango, and wheat belongs. 1.4 Taxonomical aids. Taxonomic studies of various species of plants, animals, and other organisms are useful in agriculture, forestry, industry, and in general in knowing our bioresources and their diversity. These studies would require correct classification and identification of organisms. Identification of organisms require intense laboratory and field study. The collection of the actual specimen of the plant and animal species is essential and is the prime source of taxonomic studies. These are also fundamental to studies and essential for training in systematics. It is used for classification of an organism and the information gathered is also stored along with the specimens. In some cases, the specimens are preserved for further studies. Biologists have established certain procedure and techniques to store and preserve the information as well as the specimens. Some of these are explained to help you understand the usage of these aids. 1.4.1 Herbarium. Herbarium is the storehouse of collected plant specimens that are dried, pressed, and preserved on sheet. Further, these sheets are arranged according to the universally accepted system of classification. These specimens, along with their description on herbarium sheet, becomes the storehouse or repository for future use. The herbarium sheet also carries a label providing information about date and place of collection. English and local and botanical names, family, collector's name, etc. Herbaria also serves as quick referral system in taxonomical study. 1.4.2 Botanical Garden. These specialized gardens are the collection of living plants. For reference, plant species in these gardens are grown for identification purpose and each plant is labeled including its botanical scientific name and its family. The famous botanical gardens are Kew, England, Indian Botanical Garden, Havda, India, and the National Botanical Research Institute, Lucknow, India. 1.4.3 Museum. Zoological museums are generally set up in educational institutes such as schools and colleges. Museums have collection of preserved plant and animal specimens to study and reference. Specimens are preserved in a container or jar in preservative solution. Plants and animal specimens may be also preserved as dry specimens. Insects are preserved in insect box after collecting, killing and pinning. Larger animals like birds and mammals are usually stuffed and preserved. Museums often have collection of skeletons of animals too. 1.4.4 Zoological parks. These are the places where wild animals are kept to protect environment under human care and which enables us to learn about their food habits and behavior. All animals in the zoo are provided as far as possible the conditions similar to their natural habitat. Children love visiting these parks commonly called as zoo. 1.4.5 Key. Key is another taxonomical aid used for identification of plants and animals based on the similarities and dissimilarities. Key is based on the contrasting characters are generally in pair called couplet. Represents the choice made between two opposite options. This results in acceptance of only one and rejection of the other. Each statement is the key is called the lead. Separate taxonomic keys are required for each taxonomic category, such as family, genus, and species for identification purpose. Key are generally analytical in nature. Flora, manuals, monographs, and catalogs are some other means of recording description. They also help in the correct identification. Flora contains the actual account of habitat and distribution of the plants of the given area. These provide the index of plant species found in a particular area. Manuals are useful in providing information for identification of names of a species found in an area. Monograph contains information on any one taxon. If this video was helpful for you and you want me to keep making videos related to NEET, support me by liking and subscribing to my channel. Thank you.